to that long. I got a feeling Joe won it, but we will get an update here for you guys in just a second. And Joe did win game number 1 here over Logan. So the 5-color Bring the Light deck here by Joe. You know, really the only player kind of playing this kind of strategy over the past handful of months.
And this deck is pretty similar to Obzon Control. It's got a lot of the same elements, but it has Bring to Light and some weird utility cards as a function of having Bring to Light.
These players shuffling up here for game number 2. We take a look at the sideboards here briefly on Logan's side because he's going to be playing first. You know, he's got these copies of Pitiless Horde, 2 of those, 2 Mastery of the Unseen, a Silk Wrap, 2 copies of Secure the Waste, an Obnixilis Reignited, 3 Painful Truths, and 4 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound. He's got a lot of goods for the matchup, I feel like.
Yeah, Pitiless Horde, Mastery of the Unseen, Obnixilis, and Painful Truths are all great for this matchup.
For Joe, 2 Dispel, 2 Hollowed Moonlight, 3 Surge of Righteousness, Nanofence of the Foremost, an Infinite Obliteration, 3 Painful Truths, 2 Radiant Flames, and a Self-Inflicted Wound. Some options, but I don't really love a lot of the things he's bringing to the table.
I think Surge of Righteousness and Self-Inflicted Wound are both above the bar. They're cheap removal spells. They don't kill everything, but they kill enough stuff, and I would expect Joe to just be in the market for more cheap interaction.
Well, both these players are going to take a look at their opening hand. Again, Joe Lossett did win game number 1. He was your number 6 seed coming into today, so he was on the play for game 1. Logan, you're 11. And now we prepare to see if Logan can find an opening hand that he likes. A bit of a deep breath here from him. Both these players going to wait for the green light to go. They've been given it. Both players going to keep their 7. Logan going to start off with a Windswept Heath. For Joe, it's a basic forest. He'll pass the turn back. Logan will sacrifice the Heath. He'll fall down to 19. We'll see what land he wants to search up. Basic forest, his weapon of choice. We're going to head back Logan's way. See if he can get to the board early. So important you do that against Joe's deck.
Yeah, Joe does have a power advantage as we go later on in the game. We talked a lot about Logan's ability to hang on and keep up in terms of power when the game goes late. That's sort of predicated on him getting on the board early because his deck is not as powerful as Joe's, and a lot of his late game advantage involves being able to squeeze out the last couple points of damage with cards like Gideon and Siege Rhino. If he keeps Joe at 20 life the whole game, those cards lose a lot of their impact.
There's a Plains for Logan off of the Flooded Strand. Joe with a Jace Vryn's Prodigy on turn number 2. Was curious to see if Joe was going to leave that type of card in. You're playing against Obzon aggro. They've got a decent amount of cheap removal to keep Jace in check, but there's also the flip side of things where maybe Logan wants to board that stuff out because he's only got Jace to worry about.
It's tough for Logan to leave in a lot of removal, especially because there's no pressure on him to be aggressive in the matchup. So if I was Joe, I would not be cutting Jace.
Wooded Foothills is the land here for Logan. He'll just pass the turn back. Nothing to do on the first couple of turns of the game.
Sort of really bad start here for Logan. I mean, looks like he's got some Siege Rhinos in hand to curve out on turns 4 and 5 maybe, but that's a very slow start.
For now, Lossett has an active Jace as we're on his 3rd turn. There's Bloodstained Mire. Logan will sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. Go get himself a Smoldering Marsh. Give him access to black mana now. Maybe we see something like an Obzon Charm, perhaps?
I mean, it would be something. Be surprised if Logan really had nothing to do on turns 1, 2, and 3.
There's Obzon Charm. Going to attempt to pay 2 life to draw 2 cards. And it looks like that will work. Now we go back over to Logan. He's gassed up. Found a copy of Painful Truths as well. He'll be able to go late. That much we know, because he's got a lot of card drawing. But will he be able to go late in a fashion that works?
Yep. He's still at a reasonable power disadvantage when the game goes on late if he's not putting pressure on Lossett. Also, without Jason in his deck, his card drawing not really being selection, it's bulk rate stuff like Abzan Charm and Painful Truths, he's also pretty likely to flood out if that's all he's doing.
There's Windswept Heath. I think we have a Rhino on the way, perhaps, as he searches up a Canopy Vista. And there is Siege Rhino. You already seen Joe saying he's got a copy of Self-Inflicted Wounds, so he's not too concerned about this. He's also sitting pretty cozy with an active Jace, so he'll activate this on the end step. Looks like Radiant Flames may have been the draw.
Doesn't line up that well right now. Wouldn't be surprised to see Lossett throw this one away. Yeah. Not a bad card to bring in. It's cheap interaction, and Mize has a lot of 3 toughness in the early game, but now was not the time.
2 Radiant Flames in the sideboard, 1 in the main deck here this weekend for Joe. Joe has gotten a little funky with his deck building here this weekend, trying some different things to catch some people off guard, like a main deck copy of Radiant Flames. We saw in Legacy the main deck copy of Submerge and Miracles, where fortunately for him, that didn't come back to hurt him. He tried to predict the metagame. He got it wrong, but he still 3-0'd through Legacy.
I asked Joe about the main deck Submerge, and he said, well, I was expecting a lot of Infect, especially from the Roanoke crew, and I was also expecting a lot of Storm, and the Submerge came at the expense of a Terminus, and he would rather just have another blue card in his deck for Force of Will than have a white card if they're both going to be dead against Storm.
Which makes sense.
Yep.
Bloodstained Mire will be sacrificed here. Lossett will fall down to 16, get himself a Smoldering Marsh. Lumbering Falls is the land. And now there's Self-Inflicted Wound. So Logan will lose the Rhino, a little bit of life as well. 3 cards in the graveyard now here for Lossett when it comes to Jace. And now we head back Logan Mize's way. Siege Rhino the draw here for Logan.
See a lot of lands in hand here for Logan.
That's what it looks like.
And the problem is, if he just casts Painful Truths this turn, he gasses back up, but he's giving Lossett a lot of breathing space. He can't really cast the Rhino because Lossett is threatening to be able to simply flash back the Self-Inflicted Wound with Jace next turn. So neither line of play very attractive right now.
No. Of the 2, I think I'd rather cast a creature. I mean, Painful Truth is obviously powerful, but I don't want to just give Joe a turn off.
Well, I think casting the Rhino is also sort of giving Joe a turn off too, because he gets to loot and still have 2 or 3 mana left over, assuming that he flashes back the Self-Inflicted Wound.
In that regard, I'm okay with it. If Joe's answering my creature that way, I'm okay with his Jace going down to 2. I think I would be happier with that. Instead of it going up to 6 and then getting able to double flash something back. It's not good either way.
It also depends if Mize has any Silk Wraps left in his deck. If he still has an opportunity to get the Jace off the table this turn, then I think he's got to go for it. But if he has no Silk Wraps, then maybe Rhino's the play.
Well, looks like he's going to go to Painful Truths. One card that Logan does have in his hand that's very interesting is that copy of Secure the Wastes. It's not really something he's played with before. So he draws a couple of cards here. I think he may have worked himself into Mastery of the Unseen as well. And there is Silk Wrap, so there you go.
Yep, he got it.
Yeah, if he's got some of those left in his deck, and again, it's unclear how many he wants to leave in, because it's really only taking care of Jace. But he has solved the Jace problem, at least for now.
That's a big swing right there, because Mize's hand just trying to cast 4 and 5 mana creatures into the maw of edicts in the graveyard to be flashback looked like a really tough spot. But now he's through the worst of it.
Lossette's going to activate Jace, discard a Swamp. Forest the draw for the turn. There's also Polluted Delta in hand, so lands do not appear to be a problem here for Joe. He'll go with Polluted Delta, sacrificing that pretty quickly. We'll see what he's got on his mind this turn. Logan looking to tie things up here between these two. Prairie Stream was the land, and now he's got a rhino of his own. So Lossett's going to go up to 18. Mize, oddly enough, he's kind of low.
Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fetch lands in the graveyard, and a Painful Truths, and a Self-Inflicted Wound that Lossett casts.
Yep. Been dealing himself a little bit of damage. Now for these two, Joe and Logan, they've played 3 times during their history on the Open Series. Joe has won all 3 times. It's 3-0 against Logan. Won at our Columbus Open earlier this year. They battled in Standard. Actually played twice in that tournament. Joe won both times. And then the Players' Championship last year in elimination match, Joe actually eliminated Logan. So I suppose that could happen again. For Logan now, he'll play a Rhino. That'll trigger. Get those life totals back to where they were, 11 to 15. Is there a healthy follow-up here from Mize? Again, Mastery of the Unseen in hand. He'll play that. Again, with the way that Logan's sideboard is configured, he feels like he can go toe-to-toe. Play a longer game against this style of deck, maybe even against the style of Jeskai Black decks that are out there.
He definitely can slow the game down and play a longer game. I still don't know if he can play quite as long a game as Lossett, because Lossett has Bring to Light and a bunch of just good 5-mana spells that he can just draw and cast for value. But he's definitely setting up for a much longer game.
Oh, here comes Siege Rhino. Might we see an Abzan Charm? Looks like we do. Joe going to make his Rhino larger. Now, I'm always curious in that situation if you're supposed to make the Rhino larger or if you're supposed to exile the Rhino that's blocking.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Lossett's philosophy probably is that Logan's more likely to kill the Rhino. Given that Logan was a little bit down in the life total race, if he has the option of cast my own Rhino or kill your Rhino, he's more likely to kill the Rhino. The fact that he cast a Rhino may suggest to Joe he doesn't have a removal spell in his hand.
Jace is the follow-up, and we go back to Logan. 15 to 10 right now in favor of Lossett.
Also, if Lossett suspects that Mize has brought in his copies of Secure the Waste, if he leaves his Rhino at a 4-5, Mize has a pretty easy answer to it the next turn or the turn after and Secure the Waste. So he has an incentive to try to push it up to a 6-7.
And one of the things that Joe's deck is doing right now that maybe Logan didn't expect for it to do is it's actually putting pressure on Logan. So Logan's got all these tools to say, if you want to play a million turns, that's cool with me. But Secure the Waste isn't lining up very well right now. Painful Truths is painful at this stage in the game. Master of the Unseen is a little bit slow.
6-7 Rhino plus a Jace in play is kind of the worst of both worlds for Mize. If he tries to answer the Rhino and play sort of a damage racy game, then the Jace can take over. He answers the Jace, he might just get killed and not be able to leverage the Painful Truths in his hand.
Is Logan going to go towards Painful Truths again? He's got a lot to think about here. It took him so long to get off the ground of this game. Going to go to 7. These 3 cards are going to be big. Did not get a great look. It looks like at least one self-inflicted wound, perhaps?
I mean, Self-Inflicted Wound does play here.
Yeah.
He's got 4 copies in the sideboard. I would be surprised if he had all 4 in, but at least one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an answer. He needed one right now to get that Rhino off the battlefield. So that's taken care of. Jace is still out there, however.
And don't forget about the lumbering falls, too. That's another
Can't forget about it.
That's another tax here on Mize if he gets too low.
I think Logan is hoping that Joe's forgetting about it. Because that thing can rumble on over for 3 points of damage, and Logan does not have a clean answer to it. For now, Logan will just pass the turn back over to Joe. Joe will untap his Jace active now. Joe with not a ton of cards in hand, though he does have a copy of Bring the Light now.
Sort of odd to feel like Joe is now the deck that is damage racing, and Mize is the deck generating all the card advantage and try to hang out.
Yeah. It's a real role reversal here. Now, right now, with how Joe's mana's lined up, he could Bring the Light for 4. His mana's a little wonky right now, so he's going to activate Jace.
I think he wants to get a Rhino more than anything else right now anyway,
Yeah.
so that's probably fine for Lossett.
Bloodstained Mire, the discard. Jace will transform into the Telepath Unbound. Joe immediately going to bring it up to 6. And out here is Bring the Light. See what he wants to search for. You're thinking Rhino.
Most likely. Mize is on the ropes here. It looked like he was struggling to answer the Rhino the first time around. If he Painful Truths for 3, good chance that he was looking for a removal spell, didn't have one right away.
Well, Joe thinking Rhino as well. Mize is going to fall down to 4. Time for him to untap. What he really needs is just some way to gain some life. So actually, oddly enough, Logan looking for a Rhino himself, I think.
Remember, Lossett, Lumbering Falls in play, Self-Inflicted Wound in the graveyard, so he's got a lot of ability to close right now.
Just trying to continue to press his advantage at this stage. Shambling Vent the Draw, that could be big. If Logan actually has time to make it work. The thing with Logan here is that he's got all these cards in his hand, but for Abzan, it's always difficult to cast multiple spells in a turn. When they get to that point, they're a very tough deck to beat. And if we were going to play a million turns, he's got Den Protectors and Gideons and Secure the Waste. He's got a lot of great stuff. Don't know if he's ever going to get there.
The only turns where he's cast multiple spells in a turn have involved dealing a bunch of damage to himself with Painful Truths.
Yeah.
He hasn't had 2 turns of proactive plays that haven't caused him to take damage. And the damage has really added up here.
There's Self-Inflicted one. That'll take care of Rhino again. Curious to see what comes next here. Again, he's got Den Protector. Fetching is risque. Gonna fall down to 3.
Yeah, that's a magic number here. Siege Rhino and Lumbering Falls now lethal.
Your opponent has Bring the Light in the graveyard?
It's not without risk.
Yeah. It's a morph. There's a chance he could just be dead right now.
Yep. Well, he does. I think he can secure the waste for 1.
Oh, what's stopping Joe from just Bring the Light and getting on a Rhino?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, Bring the Light in the graveyard, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I take it back. That doesn't kill him.
Oh, because Mastery Unseen
Mastery, yep.
gets a gain of life there off the trigger.
Yep. So that's not lights out. And given what we have seen from Logan this weekend, where he kind of hooked Kevin Jones, It took us a second to realize the Mastery's out there and that he's not actually dead. And now you wonder if maybe he's able to reel Joe in a little bit here, because Joe's kind of doing I guess I'm just going to bring the light and get a Siege Rhino here and you're dead, right? And that's not actually true. Assuming that Logan realizes his Den Protector will gain him a life, which he does.
And I think that Logan had this line of play set up because he sacrificed the fetch land, which to me seemed he had to have a certain plan with his mana if he was going to go ahead and do that.
Yep. So whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you gain a life for each creature you control. So Den Protector is going to gain a life from the Unmegamorph. Logan going to go up to 4, gets to return something. I smell a Rhino probably. Got to get some life back. Of course, there's a lot of great things to choose from down there, so this is definitely not an easy choice.
Seems like between Rhino and Self-Inflicted Wound as
Yeah.
the most likely options.
Looks like he's going to go with the Wound.
And next turn is pretty big for Logan because he can also dial up the Shambling Vent.
Yep, and take care of the Jace, assuming Joe has nothing.
Gain a little bit of life.
Though, as you've mentioned, the Lumbering Falls on the other side is something he has to be cognizant of.
Yep. But Lossett is running out of stuff. I mean, Logan is getting to the point here where he's taking advantage of all the card advantage he's generated over the course of this game. I think Lossett down to just Utter End in hand alongside the Lumbering Falls in play.
Logan Mize got some fight left in him. Self-inflicted wound.
Now, a line of play that Logan may want to pursue here is firing up the Shambling Vent to gain some life, making it really attractive for Joe to spend his turn firing up Lumbering Falls and going for the kill, using Secure to chump block. That's probably Lossett's turn or close to it. And then you untap with Gideon, a Shambling Vent that can hit us another time. Your Den Protector still in play.
There's Flooded Strand. This game got interesting fast. I think I have to imagine Logan wants to take care of that Jace.
Yeah, no question about that, especially with Self-Inflicted Wound in the graveyard. It's
Yeah.
just, does he want to fire up the Shambling Vent or not?
All right, Jace down. Just don't sack that Flooded Strand. I'd put that in a different part of my lands. He'll pass. He's setting up Secure. Now, one thing worth mentioning here is that Joe, if he's able to find another Rhino or Bring the Light, it looks like it would be game over. Joe will untap all those lands. He'll draw a card. Den Protector.
Self-Inflicted Wound still in the graveyard.
Very true.
I believe he's got the 7 mana.
You have to imagine that he's got the necessary land to search up with Flooded Strand. I know his mana base is wonky, but I would be surprised. Now Joe's going to take a second. You see self-limited target opponent sacrifices a green or white creature. If that player does, they lose too.
Yeah, you cannot just cast this to shock something.
Correct.
Or shock your opponent, rather. There has to be something in play to sacrifice.
So now Joe has to work through the equation of, well, what if Logan can make his creature disappear?
The other route is Logan masteries into a creature he can unmorph. And that gets him 2.
Yep.
What's interesting about this spot here, and what may make Lossett not go for the kill, is that he could get the mastery off the table and then play around that out. What I don't like about that play is that leads to the Shambling Vent getting activated. But I guess if Joe's last card is Complete Disregard, that could be the line here. If he goes for the kill and Mize flips over something with Mastery Unseen that he can unmorph and gets the 2 life back, Lossett may not be able to get back in. But what he can do is say, all right, I'm going to utter end your Mastery. Pass. It's very attractive for you to fire up the Shambling Vent. I'm going to kill that with Complete Disregard. I still have Den Protector left over to get the kill next turn. He also has to be worried about Mize going, all right, I'll remove my Den Protector from the board in response. If he just gets rid of the Mastery and the Shambling Vent, if appropriate, it gives Mize an opportunity to put another green or white creature on the battlefield, and then the Self-Inflicted Wound is more likely to work.
Joe's just going to pass.
I think he's trying to go for it next turn. It's a lot safer.
So now what's Logan do?
If Logan activates Mastery, I think you are going to see Lossett utter end it in response to the activation.
Okay. How about a Secure the Waste?
I think it's still likely he's going to remove the Mastery Unseen in response. This is not lethal, and what's nice about the Secure, it means for sure Self-Inflicted Wound's going to have some targets next turn. There's no workaround for Mize now. Lossett's totally fine seeing that card. And remember, he still has the Complete Disregard in hand as leftovers in the event that Mize tries to get a little bit of a cushion with the Shambling Vent.
Yep.
I like this play a lot from Lossett. My initial instinct was go for the kill. After looking at things for a little while, I think this play is a lot safer. And seeing Secure the Waste here is great news for Lossett's side because it means Self-Inflicted Wound's going to have some targets next turn.
A Gideon Emblem.
Oh, wow.
I think a Gideon Emblem is short.
And Lossett can still use Secure.
Correct.
Excuse me, he can still use Complete Disregard on the Vent if that comes up. So this is worth, let's see here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is short.
Well, if you fire up the Shambling Vents, it's not.
Well, this just forces Lossett
Yep.
to use the Complete Disregard. He's still got it covered even if he sacks the Flooded Strand.
Logan doing the math here.
And it's so attractive for Logan to fire up the Shambling Vent because if he goes to 4, now Rhino's off the table.
Of course.
I think he's going to... It's hard to say no to this.
He's going to activate Shambling Vent. It looks like a lethal attack with everything. Joe will sacrifice a Flooded Strand, I believe. If he Complete Disregards away the... Well, hold on a second. If he Complete Disregards a Shambling Vent, he takes 10. He takes 14.
I'm counting...
10 from the tokens, 4 from the Den Protector.
Yep. No, I must have miscounted that. I counted 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, no, I was 1 short on the count. No, this is lethal. This is lethal.
So, if he fetches and Complete Disregards the Den Protector, he would take 13.
He can't do that anymore because now it's 4 power.
Oh my goodness. I think he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe
wow.
is dead. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Logan Mize is going to win game number 2 here over Joe Lossett. I thought Complete Disregard. I thought he was running into Complete Disregard.
I thought that Lossett had it covered. I had the count off by 1 there, I guess, but wow, that was pretty impressive.
That's an insane game.
Because I still think Lossett's line of play is a lot safer because he's playing around a million different things that can go wrong. Like if he goes for Den Protector, get back, Self-Inflicted Wound, go for it. If Logan has a way to get his own Den Protector off the table, or he just flips Mastery into something that he can unmorph, Lossett's out.
Yep.
Running it that way means that it has to basically be secure into Gideon, which is what Mize had. That was great.
That's a heck of a game between those two. Abzan Aggro, 5-color Bring to Light, they are all tied up there. And you see how tense things have become now because now we've got one game here where whoever wins this one moves on to the quarterfinals. The loser's out of the tournament.
And I think Lossett may want to consider doing something with the copies of Radiant Flames because based on what I saw that game, I suspect Mize has removed most of the bottom end of his curve.
Well, if you know your opponent has access to 3 Radiant Flames through the 75, you're going to change the way you sideboard.
And just look at what Mize did that game. I mean, he never cast a single cheap creature as far as I could tell. I'm guessing Warren in the first tree and Heir of the Wilds are both out of his deck at this point.
Man, what a game. That was crazy. I didn't think Logan had a chance to get back in that game.
I thought that Logan was short a point through the complete disregard, but I forgot about the extra point that was going to the Den Protector as well.
Yeah.
And that made it lethal.
Well, Logan Mize, the Florida native from Orlando, 26 years old, at large bid from points. He had 255 during the year. That's how he got back to the Players' Championship. We saw him last year. Last year, eliminated by Joe Lossett. This year, trying to eliminate Joe Lossett. 8 Open Series top 8s, 1 Invitational top 8 during Season 2 in Columbus last year. 64.7% win percentage for 2015. 8-11 against the field. But one thing that we've said so many times against Logan, because he's in Orlando, we don't get to see him that much on the Open Series at our main events. But when we do, and I want to look at this stat too, as you said, the conversion rate of playing in an Open and top 8 in an Open, it's really high for him.
Yeah, I feel like he makes the top 8 of a huge percentage of the Opens that he plays in. What an awesome game there too, because Lossett could have simply said go and not done anything with the other end, but it's so risky to let Logan potentially unmorph something and gain a huge chunk of life.
Crazy game. Crazy game.
Now thinking back at it a little bit more, maybe Lossett is just supposed to allow the secure to resolve and pass. If Logan makes a move to activate the mastery, then you other end it off the table. But getting rid of it on that spot meant that he had no protection from that sequence of cards.
Yeah.
What a weird game.
For Joe, he too back at the Players' Championship. He'll be on the play here. The 36-year-old from Redlands, California, our Season 4 point champion, locked that up last week in Las Vegas with his top 8 finish in our Season 4 Invitational. 18 Open Series top 8s, 5 wins, 4 of which are in Standard, 2 Invitational top 8s, his second last weekend, 285 Open Series points, a 65% win percentage, and 15-11 against the field, and 3-0 against Logan Mize in their matches that they have had on the Open Series.
So get yourself into Lossett's head for a moment there. Your plan seems pretty clear. You're going to take care of the Master of the Unseen. You're going to, protect yourself from the Shambling Vent with complete disregard, and then you're going to untap and go for the kill.
Yep.
Your opponent casts Secure the Waste. What's going through your head right now? Well, that doesn't really contribute towards lethal, as far as I can tell. He's still way short. And now the Mastery ostensibly looks a lot more threatening, because if he finds something to unmorph, he gains 1 trillion life, and there's no hope of me being able to call back in. So that reinforces I need to get rid of Master of the Unseen here. But what that does is exposes him to a Gideon Emblem killing him. Maybe Joe is just supposed to say, okay, untap. If Logan goes ahead and activates the Mastery, you kill in response, and then Logan has to Master in response again and then hit something.
Which he doesn't have enough mana to do.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough mana to do that. And if it's a Gideon Emblem, then you can use the complete disregard to kill the Shambling Vent, use the other end to kill the Den Protector or whatever, and you still have the Den Protector of Self-Inflicted Wound and kill you the next turn. So I think Lossett had the line of play in his head, and seeing the Secure the Waste there reinforced the need to kill the Mastery, but in reality, I think that might have gotten him killed in that spot.
And what's interesting about the whole thing, I don't recall Logan's draw step for the turn. Didn't get a great look at it, but would he have manifested into a creature that mattered? Unclear.
But if he goes and uses his mana to manifest for a creature, you can kill the Master in response then, and you're still not facing lethal on the table.
What I'm saying is, if Joe's play was just Den Protector, unmorph, Self-Inflicted Wound, kill you.
Yep.
If he just makes that line of play, I think he actually wins the game that turn. But that's so revisionist history of looking at everything that happened. It's very understandable why he just didn't say, shrug my shoulders, do this, are you dead?
Yeah, because Logan, if he peels off something with a Mastery and gains 2, or just has a way to get his own Den Protector off the board in response, Joe has nothing left over. He's probably dead.
Logan has 1 million cards in his hand. He's Painful Truth twice. He's Obzon Charmed. It's completely conceivable that Joe goes to that play and Logan just goes, I don't know, Obzon Charm my own creature, go, and everything just works out perfectly fine.
Yeah, that is a crazy game. I can totally understand the line of thought that Lossett had going into passing the turn to Mize, and how the Secure the Waste threw him off the scent.
Yeah.
And I think that he could have protected himself from that outcome had he simply allowed Logan to untap and reacted to whatever Logan did on his own turn.
Logan has 3 copies of Murderous Cut in his main deck this weekend. He could have had one of those. They played a very long game number 1 where it's possible Joe saw multiple copies. They have access to each other's deck list. It makes sense for Joe not to just shrug his shoulders and say, Den Protector, Unmegamorph, Self-Inflicted Wound you're probably dead, right? And he can play it slower like he did and probably ensure that he'll get the win the following turn.
Yeah, it looks so good. It looks so good for him on the surface, too. And the minute that Logan cast Secure the Waste, my instinct was the same as Joe's. All right, that's great. My Self-Inflicted Wound is definitely going to work the next turn. Mastery has become more dangerous as a result. Get the Mastery off the table, take your hit, untap, and Self-Inflicted Wound will kill him for sure.
Yeah, there's no way out.
Now, going back and running through what happened, I think that might have been a mistake. But my initial instinct was the exact same as Joe's. I understand how it happened, but I think that Joe was supposed to just let Logan go about his business and respond to whatever play Logan made on his own turn.
Now Joe's taking a mulligan. Logan has kept his 7. Unless that's going to keep, we'll take a look at the top card from the Vancouver mulligan. He'll leave that on top. We're underway here in game number 3. After a great game number 2. Polluted Delta is where Joe will start shambling Vent here for Mize. You see in Joe's hand he does have a copy of Crux of Fate. It looks like there's a Treasure Cruise over there. He'll play a Plains. We'll go back Mize's way. There's another shambling Vent. To Joe we'll go. There's a Flooded Strand. Abzan Charm the draw here for Logan. And with the way Logan's deck is configured, he's got to have some of that low stuff out because he just hasn't done anything in the first couple turns.
Like I said, I think Arrow of the Wilds and Warden of the First Tree are out of his deck at this point. We have not seen anything cheap out of him, and he drew 1,000 cards that game. Imagine Joe is sacrificing his fetch lands and just this is an awkward shortcut.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this looks weird.
Yeah. Otherwise, this is just cheating.
This is just cheating.
Yeah. You just can't do
you're
that.
You're just not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Well, you can see he's put a Canopy Vista on top of his Flooded Strand. Now I think he's figuring out what he wants to search for with the Polluted Delta. Looks like he's going to go with the Sunken Hollow. And now he'll just leave the fetch lands in play, and now he's got 5 lands, and it's just really good Crows and Verge. So.
I'm guessing he's just going to bring to light next turn for something here.
There go the fetches. He's down to 18. We'll settle draw. Try to get the mana online. Time to start the Rhino Brigade. Plains. Green from the Canopy Vista. Black from the Sunken Hollow. Blue will provide the colorless. And now he's got a 4/5. For Logan, he'll sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. Basic Forest on the way. Let's see if maybe he wants to draw cards with Abzan Charm or if he just wants to kill the creature.
I don't like Logan only picking up a fraction of his deck there when he's only got 2 forests.
Just a small critique.
You're playing a Tarka Red, you're fetching for a mountain, all right, pick up 20 cards or whatever. He's got 2 forests. You pick up the whole deck.
I'll be sure to let him know.
Yep.
See if he can get a good pile shuffle in, too.
Didn't find any in the top 20. What are the odds? Actually, pretty reasonable.
He'll draw 2 cards here from Abzan Charm. Remember, Logan has access to a lot of self-inflicted wounds after sideboard, so he doesn't have to use Abzan Charm to take care of a Rhino.
It's a little bit dangerous because he's using his life total as a resource, and your preference would be to exile the Siege Rhino so that Den Protector's off the table. But I think early on in the game, Logan is just focused on accruing a critical mass of cards to work with. He has definitely slotted himself into being a control deck here.
Self-inflicted wound does take care of the Rhino. Plains is the land for the turn. We head back over to Joe Lossett. It'll be his 5th turn. Bloodstained Mire in hand. Bloodstained Mire will be the land. And now here's another Siege Rhino. Logan down to 11. Joe, I believe, up to 22. Back over to Logan we go. Master of the Unseen, the draw. It's a loud statement here from Logan that he's basically saying, I can out-control the 5-color Bring the Light deck.
Yep.
That's what he feels, and that's how his deck is configured.
And he's taken, I mean, Joe has been the damage racing deck post-board.
Mm-hmm.
Logan's been the one with inevitability. And Secure the Waste is a huge deal in this matchup, too. Lossett doesn't have a lot of ways to stop that.
No, he does not have a great workaround of that card at all.
If you can see Logan's plan here post-board is draw a bunch of cards. We're just going to have a lot of resources collide. And eventually, Secure plus Gideon is just going to happen. I'm drawing so many cards, I'm going to get so many looks at it.
Logan will play Master of the Unseen now, too.
And Mastery is so nice in this configuration, too, because it's another good long game card that Lossett doesn't answer all that well, and it's a way for him to recoup all the damage that he's dealing to himself.
Lossett will sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire. See what land he wants to search up here. All battle lands are good to go, given the 2 basics that are out there. But with Joe on a mulligan, only 3 cards in hand. He does have a Treasure Cruise in hand, so he can gas back up as he searches up a Smoldering Marsh. But I don't like where he's at in this game right now. Logan's hand is very good.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Lossett's getting beat on all fronts right now.
Yeah.
He's doing the card advantage thing a little bit better. He's doing the inevitability thing a little bit better. Lossett's only edge thus far in the game has been kind of in the life total math, but Lossett's deck is not configured in such a way to capitalize on that very effectively.
And Logan can close the game out very quickly with the Secure plus Gideon combo. So even if Joe does have a lot of life, like he does right now, given that he's at 19, Logan can close that out very quickly. This is a copy of Nissa, which will allow Joe to search up a basic forest. That's land number 6. He'll play that land. And now he can Treasure Cruise as well. Well, looks like he's just going to pass the turn back.
Wonder if his plan here is to Abzan Charm and try to Treasure Cruise on the cheap, or keep more of his graveyard intact.
He is 1 land away from flipping Nissa.
It looks like he's sitting on Negate.
Well, that makes sense. Self-inflicted wound. Negate will protect. However, I think Logan has another answer to the Nissa. I believe a Silk Wrap in hand. Yep.
That's really painful for Joe. I think part of his line here was really leaning on getting in the next turn with that Nissa. Using a Negate on a removal spell there means you were committed to trying to make that happen.
Well, it's just a way for him to undo the mulligan he's taken.
Yeah.
Nissa can provide some real card advantage there.
Card advantage and potentially threaten Logan's life total as well, which is something Joe's interested in, given that Logan's at 11 and decided all these Painful Truth style cards.
And one of the things about these Abzan decks, of course, they're very powerful, but the way that they actually draw cards, they always have to pay life to do so. Painful Truths, Read the Bones, Abzan Charm, stuff like that. So you're going to find Logan's life total pretty low, and then it's on Siege Rhino actually to bring it back up. Mm-hmm. Here's Treasure Cruise. He saw Joe leave a Rhino in the graveyard to potentially get back with Den Protector. Complete disregard a couple of lands there. There's a Cinderglade. We're going to head back Logan Mize's way. And if you're Logan and you see Joe draw a couple of cards, not anything to the board, you're probably pretty happy.
Yep. Especially because Lossett only has so many counterspells in his deck, and this seems like a pretty solid window potentially for Gideon to get into play. Start making some 2/2s.
Gideon or Siege Rhino don't sound too bad. Well, Mastery Activation doesn't sound so bad either. A lot of different routes that Logan can go. And Logan's getting into the spot right now where lands are good, spells are good.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you like to be as an Abzan player. Logan just going to pass the turn back. A lot of patience here from Mize. It's a land for Lossett. And now it's a Morph, which of course is a Den Protector in his list. Logan knows that. Cruz able to be returned. Same thing can be said for Siege Rhino. Logan's going to sacrifice a copy of Flooded Strand. Let's see what land Logan wants to search up here with the fetch. A couple of different options available. Looks like he's going to go with the Sunken Hollow. Might be time for a little manifest action. He does have Obs on Charm in hand as well.
Yeah, the Obs on Charm's got a little bit more interesting now with Lossett having cast a Den Protector. Means he's more likely to want to keep it to kill a Rhino. Also means that the 2 life he's paying, the cost on that has gone up because he's likely to get hit by a Den Protector once and a Siege Rhino trigger.
And there is Obs on Charm. Maybe a little surprising he's going to pay 2 to draw 2 here.
Well, he's got a Rhino of his own in his hand, and he's really in the market for land number 8 because
Sure.
then he's in, Gideon plus Siege Rhino, activate Mastery twice, and so on. So
Makes his Den Protectors a little bit better too. There's complete disregard on the manifest. What'd he hit? Secure the Waste. Gone.
got to be happy if you're Mize, though, to trade a card for a manifest.
I'd be thrilled. Wooded Foothills is land number 8.
We talked a lot about, Logan's got these pitiless hordes and kind of a bummer for this matchup. He went from 4 to 2. I think those cards are not in his deck. I think he's a totally different deck post-board.
I do too. I think he's taken a much different slant to things. And I think because of that, I think he's caused Joe to maybe miss sideboard here. Cards like Complete Disregard just don't do very much after sideboard.
Yeah, this card has not looked good. The Radiant Flames had
Yeah.
nothing to do with
Garbage.
the game. Yeah.
He's sidestepped a lot of the stuff that Joe can bring to the table. There's the Siege Rhino as well. Now Logan's getting a 2-spell per turn territory, or Manifest plus spell, or double Manifest. It's only getting harder here for Lossett.
And there's that time bomb the whole time of Secure the Waste.
Yep. You never know if Logan has one or not. That's what won him game number 2. He did just lose one to the Manifest from Master of the Unseen, but he's got another one in his sideboard that you have to imagine is in the deck here.
And he's looking at a lot of cards.
Yep. Lossett's going to unmegamorph Den Protector. It'll get a counter, of course, and we'll see what he wants to bring back. Complete Disregard, Treasure Cruise, and Siege Rhino are the options.
It's a tough call here because Siege Rhino seems like the most obvious thing. But what's Lossett's plan from there? He has a Siege Rhino in play against an opposing Siege Rhino versus Gideon and Mastery. He might be far enough behind that he just needs to go get Treasure Cruise, even though Treasure Cruise is not an efficient card at this point. Gas up and try to play over the top.
Yeah, I think I actually like going to get Treasure Cruise in this instance because, again, Siege Rhino just doesn't appear like it's going to do very much. Now, for what it's worth, Joe does have a copy of Crux of Fate in hand, so he can kind of reset things. But then again, he really can't because there's a Mastery of the Unseen and a Gideon on the battlefield.
Right. He can play Crux and Siege Rhino this turn, but to what end? Next turn, Logan gets to make 3 2/2s for free, not even talking about cards that could be in his hand.
Now, Joe does have 2 copies of Siege Rhino in hand, so maybe there's a burnout plan. Maybe. It seems hard.
With Logan at 11 and, again, having the Mastery in play, it seems unlikely. But I think that if Joe got back the Siege Rhino, this is the plan. He's going to play land number 9, Crux, Siege Rhino, and try to manage things from there.
Den Protector's going to sneakily attack.
I would block with Siege Rhinoceros and see what the trick is.
Going to creepily walk into the red zone.
I guess the concern here is that Languish could be the follow-up, but I would not want to take 3 damage against someone who just got a Siege Rhino back.
Yeah, and also, if you're not worried about Obs on Charm, because if it was Obs on Charm, he could just Obs on Charm the Rhino.
Right. Also, you're just trading.
Yes.
Yeah, so
it's a safe block.
It's worth thinking about because if it's Languish, maybe you're not happy to do it, but I still think you got to block.
It's also just a free attack for Joe.
Yeah.
Just send that thing in there. Maybe Logan overthinks himself and gets something wrong. Crux of Fate clears it up. Here's a Rhino. It's 19 to 8 in favor of Lossett, but Lossett is barely hanging on to things, if he is even hanging on.
Well, with another Rhino in hand, and Logan just on lands right now, if he draws removal spells or Obzon Charms to play over the top, this turn, I think the most likely play is Mastery, make a Gideon token, and pass. If you find something that can play over the top of that and play another Siege Rhino, there's hope you could burn Mize out of this game.
I'm curious to see if Mize is going to pivot at all. Maybe go towards the emblem for Gideon, because then it makes it so those masteries are 3/3s instead of 2/2s, so we're looking in double block territory then. There could be some pivoting that's done.
Yep, especially with the second Gideon in hand. Then it becomes a lot more attractive.
He's going to cash this Gideon in for an emblem. That also means that the Shambling Vents are 3/4s with lifelink now. Here's another Gideon. This also means that Gideon cranks out 3/3 tokens. And because Lossett only has one card in hand right now, which is a Siege Rhino, though Logan doesn't know that because he just returned a Siege Rhino, so that card is a mystery. I like the pathway that Logan is on, given the information that he's working with.
I do too. And if Lossett misses on this draw, if he doesn't draw anything meaningful, it's possible he just plays Siege Rhino and says, go. Logan untaps and really starts taking control of the game. Because once Lossett has put himself in this position where he's trying to damage race Mize out of the game, the minute Lossett has to pump the brakes because he can't make attacks anymore, Logan gets so much breathing space because he gets to untap. He gets 3 3/3s in play on the house. That's just locked in. If he ever finds a creature, then he gains a ton of life with Mastery as well. He's out of range of being attacked, and he has a huge advantage in terms of inevitability.
The draw for Joe Lossett was a copy of Polluted Delta.
That's a miss.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Joe can attack if he wants to. I'm almost positive Mize will say, make a token block and see what's going on over there.
Dare you to have whatever it is.
And I think Lossett knows that Mize is extremely likely to block, which means that Lossett, I think, has to play a Rhino and say, go. And now this is a window for Mize to take over the game.
It's bad every which way here for Joe. There's just not an attack to be had that Logan won't just say block. Logan's at 5, too.
Right. He has to block.
Yep.
He's happy to trade whatever Lossett drew with what he's doing with his turn.
Here comes the manifest.
And remember, if Mize hits a creature here, going to be very hard for Lossett to recover from the Mastery trigger.
Logan will draw. Didn't get a great look at the draw step. But he's got Gideon's working overtime. He's got a Mastery of the Unseen. Now, one of the things to note with Logan, with how he's sideboarded, at least how we believe he's sideboarded, as we've talked about, that cards like cards like Ward of the First Tree and Air of the Wilds are probably out of the deck. Mm-hmm. So his creature density is actually pretty low.
He's not hitting as many things as he does game one.
Yep.
But it's only a matter of time. I mean, there are creatures in there, and he's going to be hitting 2 a turn.
Painful Truths was the draw.
I think he wants to hang tight with that until he gains some life and hits land number 11.
Yeah.
I don't think drawing 3 is better than making a token at this point.
Lossett's draw for the turn. I believe a complete disregard.
And Lossett just has a lot of cheap removal spells left in the deck, and Mize has gone into an entirely different direction. And you can see, Lossett is looking here, like, can I make it to an attack? Is there even a bluff to be had? I think the odds are so high that Mize just makes 2 tokens, double blocks both. Can you live with that outcome? Probably not. You're down a Rhino. You get 1 point of damage across is basically what ends up happening.
Logan doesn't lose much.
Right. If he happens to find something like Den Protector to unmorph, it's a total disaster.
For what it's worth, I think this is his best shot.
Well, he certainly can't sit back.
No.
I think that Logan's blocks are pretty straightforward here. And Lossett is going to end up having to use a complete disregard for not that much effect, but the alternative is worse.
A weird question. Did Logan forget to activate Gideon last turn?
No, I'm pretty sure he zeroed.
Okay, so the previous turn he played Gideon and made an ally.
Yeah, he may have forgot.
I think he may have forgotten to actually activate Gideon last turn. Because he cashed it in, played a Gideon, made a creature, said go with a Mastery activation, and then this turn he just drew Painful Truths played a land, and then didn't actually. Wow, I think he actually forgot to activate Gideon. Now he's going to fire up Shambling Vent. Here comes some double blocks.
Activating the Shambling Vent here is better for Lossett.
Better for Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this way he's disregarding a Shambling Vent instead of a Mastery token.
Yep.
Still gets his 1 point of damage across the same way.
And again, it is my assumption that complete disregard was the draw. And if that's the case, just with the way Logan is sideboard, it's just not a great card after sideboard. Doesn't have a lot of targets. Logan's fine with making that kind of exchange.
It's so rare it's going to trade with a card.
Yeah.
It's going to probably trade with an unmorphed Den Protector or a token, given the way that Mize's sideboard is set up here.
Joe tapping a lot of mana. What is this?
Oh,
Ooh. Slumgar's command. What is this going to do? We'll get confirmation on the modes, and of course we'll let you guys take a look at this card at home.
This still can do some of the similar work that Complete Disregard did, but slightly more effectively. He can, for example, shrink the morph that is blocking the Siege Rhino along the Shambling Vent. The Rhino can kill the Shambling Vent. Or I suppose he can do it this way as well. Clear them out. And maybe bounce the double blocked Rhino back to his hand?
All right.
He trades off with the Shambling Vent. He prevents any life from getting gained. He keeps the Siege Rhino that's blocked by the Shambling Vent. And he gets to recast his Siege Rhino this turn. It's not shabby.
Return this.
Yeah, this is pretty good for Lossett.
No life will be gained. He's going to lose the manifest because Rhino's going to deal 3 to the morph and then 1 to the vent.
Right.
And now he gets to recast. All right.
That's a solid, yeah.
Yep.
That is a fine turn there.
So Logan's going to fall down to 2. Logan's got to make sure he gains some life this turn. Some way, somehow. If that involves firing...
you can see Logan shaking the head there.
Yep.
I think
if he had that token last turn, it's a completely different turn.
A huge difference.
There's so much going on in the game, and you can see these players are over an hour and a half into the match. Yeah, I think he's got to fire this up and at least get himself up to 5.
Get a bit of a cushion here.
Murderous Cut's a huge draw.
Yeah, that's great here. I mean, Mize now, he can still do something with Mastery. He can gain some life this turn. And if Lossett has some combat trick or removal spell to play over the top, he has Murderous Cut as an insurance policy.
Logan's black mana situation's a little weird right now. He has a Sunken Hollow, the Shambling Vent, and then a Llanowar Waste. So if he wants to fire up the vent and then cast Murderous Cut, he's got to take a damage to do it, which isn't ideal, of course. He'd like for that to be painless. Thinking about sacrificing a Wooded Foothills now. How many Smoldering Marches in his deck?
He has 1.
It's in the graveyard.
Oh, that was one of the Mastery tokens.
Yep, that's exactly what he's pointing at. Yep. He's well in tune with his deck.
I don't know if there's any lands for that Wooded Foothills to get anymore.
That's a touch awkward. We have played a pretty long game.
Yeah, and that's what makes this a lot more complicated. Is if he wants to activate the Shambling Vent, he either has to take a point of damage or lose access to Murderous Cut.
Rhino down. Time to delve away some irrelevant cards. You see, he's treading so carefully here. The game's so close. And he can feel like he's turning the corner or getting close.
Yeah, he is. He's on the edge here, being able to turn this around.
There's an attack for 3. He's going to go up to 4. Lossett going to fall down to 22. And now Logan will just pass the turn back with that Painful Truth still in hand. What's Joe's draw here? I think it was just a Prairie Stream to go along with that Polluted Delta. And this time, Joe can't attack.
I'm sorry. I think there's still one copy of Canopy Vista that Mize can get.
Sure.
But he can't get Black Mana with it.
Nope.
The Sunken Hollow's in play and the Smoldering Marshes in the graveyard.
Joe played Prairie Stream, just passed the turn back. And that's the reprieve that Logan needed.
Yep.
Now, he's not going to fetch. He'll just draw.
If he can find a way to kill the Rhino that Lossett has left over, he can flip around and kill Lossett pretty quickly.
Yeah, he can get it done in 2 turns. Gideon might be becoming a creature. He's going to cash it in. Hello. Another emblem. All the creatures get +2/+2 now. Just wants to get himself out of range.
Yeah, he can just keep cushioning for the time being while he's activating Mastery. Also, this means the Shambling Vent is now outside of complete disregard range.
Mm-hmm. A 4/5 running into a 4/5 Rhino.
Mize just needs a little bit of breathing space.
Yep.
He's got a lot of inevitability in play here.
And if he gets that breathing space, that means he can do something like cast a Painful Truths, gas back up. Not saying he needs more cards because he's got Mastery and the Shambling Vent going, but it's just it'll become an option at that point.
The only risk with making a Gideon emblem, as far as I can tell, is it means that if Lossett finds an answer to the Mastery, then they're at sort of parity.
Ish.
But it's probably worth it just to start getting that cushion. Because once he starts gaining life, he's got enough of an advantage that he's probably favored if the game goes long. Also, it could unlock the Painful Truth sometime in the near future, and that probably gives him the resources to carry this.
Might as well draw. Looks like it may have been another copy of Mastery. Logan checking out the manifest that he does have on the battlefield. Keep in mind those manifest are 4/4s, as are those Knight Allies from Gideon. And this Shambling Vent that he's reaching towards is a 4/5. Logan just doing some math here to see what kind of attack can I make now.
He's got some pretty attractive looking attacks as far as I can see. He sends in everything. Even if the Rhino gets blocked, you're coming across for 16 is my 16 is my count. And the worst case scenario is you lose a token, which doesn't really matter for a whole lot because you are making one for free.
And I like pressing his advantage here because now what he's doing is he's going to lose a resource, be it a Manifest or a Knight Ally, because Shambling Vent can't be killed by the Rhino. And what you're doing here is you're shortening the clock on Joe's draw steps. I like this attack a lot, and I don't think there's a lot that can go wrong. And I also believe that Logan is sensing a little bit of weakness here in Joe's last couple of draw steps.
Well, Joe's deck plays mostly at sorcery speed. He does not have a whole lot of instants, and a lot of the instants that are in his deck aren't really functional right now. So even in the worst case scenario where Lossett has, let's say, Abzan Charm to get your Shambling Vent off the table and blocks one of your tokens, even in the worst case scenario,
on one of these might be a Siege Rhino, yeah. He's going to gain a bunch of life, going to deal a bunch of damage.
You still hit for 12 and trade with an Abzan Charm, worst case scenario. And if Lossett's on nothing, he just takes a huge hit.
Logan's going to gain 5 life from the unmorphing of the Siege Rhino. He's going to go up to 12, then he's going to gain even more life from the Shambling Vent. And now I think Joe's on a no-outer. There goes the Canopy Vista. Can't search for that one. Can't search for that
no
one.
lands.
Yeah. No lands left for that Foothills to get. Now we go back Lossett's way, and I think it's his last draw of the tournament. He did pick up a copy of Den Protector. I don't know if this will let him play on, maybe only momentarily.
Well, Siege Rhino, he can Den Protector back Siege Rhino, and then he has 3 blockers against 3 attackers, and goes up to 7. I think it's a dead end long term, but I think he can survive one more. Or he has to Den Protector back Treasure Cruise and just hope to spin off a bunch of perfects.
Crux of Fate clears everything up temporarily, but then Shambling Vent would just be able to attack for the W once all the creatures are dead.
Yeah, maybe it has to be something like Den Protector, get back, Cruise. Even then, he has to pay. He still has to pay some mana for the Treasure Cruise, and I don't know if he can put together enough blockers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just might be Den Protector for Siege Rhino to survive this turn, but long term it's a dead end.
Even a card as flexible as Slumguard's Command isn't going to help him out of this situation. He needs something like Obliterate, Jackal Hops.
Yep. Shahrazad.
Yeah. One of your favorites.
Although if he's passing here and not getting back the Rhino, I assume that means he's planning on getting back Slumgar's Command.
Well, the other thing worth noting, too, is that if you're Logan, you know the morphs.
Right.
So you know it's Den Protector, and then you can just scan the graveyard and say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then go through the graveyard and say, okay, the worst thing that can happen is Slumgar's Command. Let's play around that accordingly.
And playing around that accordingly is as simple as go. Make more mastery tokens.
Yeah. Just keep going wider and wider.
Yeah, if the attack is risky in the face of Slumgar's Command, Logan has a great out, which is just crank out 2 4/4s, try again next turn.
Looks like he's going to come again this turn. Everybody's coming in. He must not be too concerned with Slumgar's Command.
Well, Den Protector's just a chump blocker.
Yep.
And Slumgar's Command doesn't kill anything, because everything's bigger than -3/-3 can kill. And Logan has an enormous cushion of life at this point, so he doesn't have to worry about some weird sequence of cards killing him on the way back.
Joe Lossett is going to extend the hand. Logan Mize is going to win this match here over Joe Lossett 2-1. Obzon Aggro will take care of 5-color Bring to Light. Their match history was 3-0 for Lossett. It is now 3-1 as Logan Mize knocks Joe Lossett out of our Players' Championship.